मैं चाहता हूँ जब से निकाल दिया आपको फोन में सिम लगी हुई थी मेरी।
Bonjour tout le monde.
Bonjour.
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 Bonjour, Bernard.
En fait, la séance d'aujourd'hui va se dérouler en anglais parce que l'expert ne parle pas français, du coup, ça se déroule en anglais. Mais bien sûr, ça va nous servir parce que le titre s'intitule Quantitative Research in Foreign Languages et donc ça va être utile pour nous.
Yes, of
Donc,
course.
oui, très bien. Et donc, à la fin, on aura la petite séance de questions-réponses où vous allez poser les questions à notre expert pour mieux comprendre le thème.
Sir, are you working somewhere there?
Yes, we are connected with the university here.
University of Manipal?
Yes,
Okay, okay.
and the expert is also from University, Manipal University, Jaipur.
Yes, yes.
Right, you must have seen it on the poster that was shared across.
Okay. We're still waiting for the connecting people.
Yeah, we are still waiting for a minute or two, and then we'll start officially. So we want everyone to make most of it. So we'll seek clarity from Dr. Arun Kumar. Maybe we'll wait for 2 more minutes because I'm sure many people must be returning to their places from their, from the schools, from the universities, and they would want to log in as well. So we'll wait for maybe a minute or two, and then we'll start.
Yes, sir.
Right. Dr. Arun Kumar Santhalingam, shall we start the session now? And we would let everyone in maybe with a span or a gap of 5 minutes as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll officially start now. Bonjour tout le monde. Good afternoon to everyone. Today we are back again with another session for all of you. And this time the session is, as you have seen the title, it is Quantitative Research in Foreign Languages. And we are fortunate to have with us our expert, who is Dr. Narender Singh Bhati. And sir is working as an associate professor at Manipal University, Jaipur. This is an important session for all of us because we know that in foreign languages, when it comes to quantitative research, we get a little restricted. But I'm sure that with this session, we would have a lot of understanding about how to move ahead in foreign languages when it comes to quantitative research. I would like to mention that the whole session is going to unfold in English, and in the end, we would have a question answer round with the expert. So please feel free to ask him questions. If at all we would not be able to accommodate your questions here in this session, then please do not hesitate in writing to us on the WhatsApp number that we have shared, or we will share in the group, or the email ID that we will share in the chat box. There you can post your questions and queries, maybe after the session, and we will direct those questions to sir. And as sir told me that the session would be quite long, but he has tried to squeeze that session within a span of 1 hour and a few minutes. So let's see how it unfolds. Even before inviting sir on this meeting, I would like to request Dr. Arun Kumar Santhalingam, President IF Pro, to say certain words, and then he would invite sir to start with his presentation. Over to you, Arun.
Thank you, Jay. So first, very good evening to everyone who have gathered here for an online workshop. And I think it's been a long time we organized an online workshop, and we were actually desperately searching for a very good topic. The topic, like Jay, proposed was on quantitative research, and it's such a wonderful topic that, many of the teachers, they have been calling me since yesterday and asking like, when is it? And they wanted to really participate. So first, hats off to Jay for organizing such a wonderful webinar. And I would like to congratulate Dr. Narender Singh Bhati also, who have consented to do a webinar today. So we are eagerly waiting for your webinar, sir. So all the best, and over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Arun, Dr. Jayavardhan Singh Rathore, for having me here for this wonderful session. And I'm glad to see such a huge audience here for this topic, which seems to be very interesting for all of you. So without taking much of the time, I'll start with the presentation. Is my screen visible? Could you please confirm?
Not yet.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, fine. So a very good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour, this is the only word that I know in French, not other than that. The topic for today's session is about quantitative research in foreign language. 1 second, please. I'm sorry, participants, for the interruption. Yeah. So the topic talks about that what is the role of quantitative research in foreign languages specifically. So today the session will, in this session, I'll discuss about what are the tools that you can use, the quantitative tools in statistics and research that we all use. I have often seen that the researchers, specifically in the field of languages, specifically, they are very scared of using some statistical tools in their data analysis and all that. But at the same time, even at looking at the side of the academicians, they are also very scared of these numbers, because belonging to some language department and coming directly to the numbers, statistics and all. So they do not want to get into this analysis and all that stuff. Yes, although they all are interested to know about it, but they do not feel comfortable. They always hesitate, and they are always scared of those numbers and statistical tools. But at the same time, this is something which we as a researcher cannot ignore. We as a researcher cannot avoid, because without statistical analysis, without the quantitative analysis and the research, we definitely cannot lead to some good outputs in the research. Otherwise, we'll end up having some work which has already been repeated many times. So here in this session, we will I'll discuss about that, how you can write a good research article or a dissertation, or of course a research thesis. What exactly is the sequence of writing the same? Along with that, what are the applicable tools, the statistical tool which you can apply over to your research problem, having certain objectives under that, and how you can write those outputs and interpretation in the same line. Other than that, we will also discuss about what selecting the appropriate journal for your article. Because if I'm done with writing the research paper so well, so nicely, but I'm not able to find out the suitable journal for the same. So in this session, we will also discuss about, because nowadays you might have seen that every university is running behind the neck accreditation and all that. For that, the very first thing which is expected by all of us is the research publication. So the research publication, that too in Scopus Index journals. So even if we had a very little bit idea about the Scopus Index, but now every one of us will be knowing that, yes, what is a Scopus Index and what is the importance of the publication in Scopus Index journals. But I would request the participants to please mute the mics. Thank you so much. Now, let's start with the presentation. Okay. Yeah. Let us first discuss the structure of research article. If I'm going to write a research paper, then what exactly would be the sequence, how I should be going ahead with that. I think all of you must be doing PhD. You might have completed your PhD. Some of you are working as an assistant associate professors in some universities. So we exactly know that what is the proper sequence of writing the research article or the thesis or the dissertation, if you are into masters and some other courses. So likewise, firstly, we'll discuss about the abstract. Abstract is a gist. It's a summary of your entire research. That should include that what exactly the problem is, what was the tool used for the study, and what was the output. So in a maximum 150 to 250 words, you have to summarize your entire study in the form of an abstract of the paper. Moving on to the introduction. Introduction is again something which is very, very important part, because if you see your article from the reader's point of view, so your abstract is the very first thing that you go through that actually catches the interest of the readers, and that actually helps them to know whether this particular article will be of some use to them or not, right? After that, you'll go for the introduction. In introduction, you are giving the background of the problem. You are generating the need of the problem. You are somehow highlighting on the research gaps that will be identified. And then you will talk about that what your paper and your research article will address to which kind of audience and what will be the somehow objectives of the same. Then we'll go for the literature review. It is something which will talk about that till date, how much work has been done in the area which you have focused upon. So if I'm talking about like learning aptitude of the students towards the foreign languages in school education, specifically if I'm talking about. So I will be just going through the lot of studies which are already available online. And after going through a lot of literature, I will be in a position to see that what exactly has been done so far. That is something which will give me a hint that yes, what exactly can be done after that. So literature review is something which is a very, very important aspect of your research writing, because if you do not know that what has been done till date, you will not be in a position to know that what is exactly the area of improvement and what is exactly the scope for the future work in the same line. Then the hypothesis development, since we are talking about the quantitative research analysis, then of course the hypothesis has to be a very essential part of the same. And then we'll move on to the methodology. Methodology is the entire process, like the step-by-step conversion of your research, using some data collection, selecting the appropriate tool for the analysis and coming out with the conclusions. And this will sampling techniques, sample size determination, everything will be the part of your research methodology. On the basis of the methodology, we'll come to the data analysis and results. That is using some statistical tests over the data that you have collected, using some hypothesis tests and finding the solutions for the problem and just quoting the results on the same. Then the discussion part will be there, which will support your outputs that you have received along with the literature support. So for example, if I'm saying that X is affecting Y, if I am saying that regularity in speaking the foreign language with your colleagues, with your friends, at family, you will definitely become more fluent in talking in that particular language. So that has been supported by many research which has been done in the same line. So you will put the discussion along with the reference that yes, my study has been supported by many studies which have already been done in the literature. Then you'll come to the conclusion, the entire like output for your research. How did you start and how did you, what process did you adopt it? Did you adopt? And then how have you come to the conclusion? Next is reference section, which will talk about that how many papers have you reviewed? What extra have you done? What are the references along with the DOI, all the research articles, which is very, very important for a reader's point of view to trace if in any case I want to locate any of the papers that is there. And then the appendices like questionnaire and any other reports if you wish to publish on the same. As I discussed, abstract is like brief introduction of the readers to aim of the study, the methodology, the results, and the findings. It should be very, very specifically written, because at the beginning, you might have seen most of the journals, they just scrutinize the research article on the basis of the way the abstract has been written. Along with the abstract, you also need to focus upon the key words. Keywords are the one which will be, put in the computer, then the screening will be coming out, and then on the basis of the keywords that you have chosen for your study, your article will be, like coming on the top while somebody is searching for it. So let's say, for an example, I'm talking about the language attitude, the teaching pedagogy for the foreign languages, right? So I'm talking about foreign language is a keyword, teaching pedagogy is a keyword. So if anybody is looking forward to have some research articles in the same line, foreign language and teaching pedagogy, your paper will get high chances to be appeared at the top if you have carefully written the keywords. So that is something which is helping you to get traced by any readers who is going through in the same line. Introduction and thesis statements will talk, as I said, that what is the background of the problem, how it started, and how did you see that there is a gap which needs to be filled up with the further studies, right? So you need to define the research questions, what research questions and objectives. Let me tell you all of you that this is, it seems similar, but there is a lot of difference. Objectives are like the broader picture of your aim of that particular study, whereas the research questions are the specific statements, the specific questions which needs to be defined, right? So you need to be very much aware of your research questions while going through the introduction. You need to be aware about the brief background of the relevant theories and any practices, anything that is there in the in this particular study related to the same. Then the literature review, as I said, that it's something that what has been done in that particular area till date. You need to highlight the main issues and the controversies around the problem, because if you keep on quoting the citation, if you keep on finding the solution in the same line, you would not be getting any diversity in that topic, right? So it's very important that if you get the diversified opinion of the readers, of the authors who have been working in the same line, so that will give even more clear picture of the problem which may persist, and that needs to be addressed in the study. The methodology is the part which we'll be focusing in today's session more, because I think this is the only pain point for all the researchers. Most of the researchers find it very difficult to get through this particular stage number 3, that is methodology, which we are not much aware of. We are not about that, which will be what exactly should be the sample size, what exactly should be the sampling method, how to collect the data, how to choose the appropriate tool of the data collection, the appropriate method of data collection. So, and how to identify that which tool for analysis the data will be used, to analyze the data will be used. So you will be in a big dilemma as a researcher, specifically in the field of arts and languages. So it's very, very difficult. So we'll be focusing more towards the methodology section in today's session. Then the findings is something like what have you received, what have you got out of the data analysis, and then this needs to be like explained clearly. It needs to be interpreted in a way so that the readers can easily understand what the meaning is. And the discussion to comment about the trends and the findings, and of course you need to give a data support, you need to give a literature support while writing the discussion. As I said, that if X is affecting Y, and that has been proven right in the hypothesis testing, then the discussion will include that how many studies have been done which actually proved that X is affecting Y. Okay, so you need to be very, very careful while writing the discussion, because most of the researchers and most of the research article I have seen that the discussion part is not written as as per the requirements of the journal. So this is something which can lead to the rejection of the research article. So the discussion is very, very like smartly it's to be written, and it should be having the crux of your study and how your study is different from the literature and from the other studies which have been done in the same topic. And then conclusion is to sum up your entire work, to highlight the significance of the same. And then the most important part in the conclusion is that what is the scope for future research? If I've done till date up to this level, yes, there are some more factors which can be studied later on, which is somehow affecting the learner's aptitude, learner's attitude towards learning the foreign languages, right? So this is something which will create a space for the future research, because as a researcher, I cannot cover up everything in one particular research article. So there is always a scope for improvement in the work that I've already done. So this is something which is creating a gap or a space for the future researchers to continue their work in the same line. So that's what you have to mention at the side of the conclusion. And then the references, all the listing the alphabetically of all the reference material, be it any book, be it any research article. And then there are many referencing style. I think APA style is being used usually in social sciences and the humanities. So the APA style that we use in engineering, IEEE, and some MLA style is also being used. In appendices, you can put your questionnaire, your survey, any relevant instrument that you think that is very essential for the readers to know. So this is how the entire sequence of the research article. Now let's move on to the topic of the session, that is the quantitative research. As I said, that quantitative is something which includes numbers into it, right? Wherever you are going through the statistical data analysis, the quantitative word has to be there. As of now, most of you might be preferring to go for the qualitative work. Qualitative work means something which is based on the literature, something which is based on theory, some abstract, some ideas, and then to conclude your work. But do you really think so that by doing so, are you creating some innovation? Are you creating something which we can call it as a research, much by doing the same work, repeating it again and again, and then finding out similar conclusions? So that's how you will see that qualitative research are having the less importance. I'm not saying it is not having an importance. It is having the less importance as compared to the quantitative one, because it is something which you are producing out of the work which has already been produced by many, right? So you are not adding anything new. You are not adding any, coming up with any innovations in the same models and the theories. It's just that you are just trying to mold the findings from your point of view. But if you talk about the quantitative research, it includes the data collection, primarily talking about the problem, the population of the study, and then accordingly you need to analyze the same. So let's discuss about the benefits of quantitative research. It basically is about objectivity. That means to reduce the bias and the subjectivity. I'm not doing anything on my own. It is something what the respondents have responded, and accordingly I'm just quoting the outputs. It talks about the replicability. Whatever the results that you receive, that you get, it's always valid, and that can be applied from the different contexts, because you do have all the evidences to produce whenever it is required if you have done the work primarily. Generalizability, it is helping you to draw the conclusion based on the statistical methods. If I'm saying that yes, the children having the mathematical aptitude are having less interest towards learning foreign languages. If this is something what I have been studying in the literature, that towards languages, the students who are more into that arts and that humanities and some literature side, they will be more inclined towards learning the foreign languages. Whereas somebody who is very good at numbers and those who have the analytical mind, they might not be that much interested in learning foreign languages. So generalizability talks about whatever data have you collected. On the basis of those evidences, I'm just producing those facts in the form of an output, which is statistical outputs, right? So if I'm talking on terms of numbers, everybody would believe me, isn't it? But if I think that I tell you something like, I think so, my friend thinks so, these authors think so, so in that case, it is not something evident for me to believe. So generalizability talks about if I have got enough data, primarily which has been collected, it has been analyzed using some hypothesis tests and using some statistical operations over the same, then of course, it is an evidence. I've got an evidence to prove that yes, it is the quantitative one. Quantitative data talks about the precision because it is accurate, and the precise findings you will get in this because everything that you have done is completely first-hand. That is a primary database. It is not related to the literature that we have been taking a huge support of. Efficiency, it is very cost-effective and efficient way to gather the data and to test the hypothesis. Very quickly, you can, by sending simply a link to the n number of readers, you can get the data collected. Now in this present times, using like the e-commerce and all that, I am just creating a questionnaire form. I'm just floating it to all of you and you are filling it up and I'm getting my data done. So that is actually not having any kind of cost in between. It is not actually taking much time for you to fill it up and for me to gather the data. So why to hesitate much if it is very, very convenient for us now in the present time? Let's go for the data collection. Let's go for the quantitative assessment of your data and get your paper published in it, right? Let's talk about the language point of view. How can you do some quantitative research in the foreign languages? There are many domains in the foreign language where you can do the quantitative study. For example, language proficiency assessment. You can develop your skills. You can develop your measurement scale, which can measure the learner's linguistics or the language skills objectively. I'm not saying that it's something which is there in the literature. It is something that I am creating on my own. We call it in research as a scale development. If I want to see that how a the student of primary section perceives and how he is inclined towards learning the languages, be it any language, not specifically French. My daughter is in 5th standard. What orientation she has towards learning French or the Sanskrit as a second language. So I need to understand that why can't I develop my own scale to measure the same, that how the respondents, how the learners, they see what are their attitude, what are their aptitude towards learning those skills. So you better go for this. You can have the experimental studies also, where you can conduct certain experiments in the foreign language, like learning styles, the pedagogy and all, because every learner has a different pattern of learning. I always believe in learning by doing, but maybe some other learners may not be of that sort. They may be learning that if you show me a picture, a video through YouTube, I learn better. Somebody would say that I am more comfortable in classroom teaching, right? So let's go for an experiment. If there are thousands of people, they all have different learning styles. So just go through it, collect the data, get it done, and just analyze it and get to know that what learning style is more effective for what kind of people, right? So this is how you can perform an experiment in people out there. You can conduct some survey, and the question is to find out the attitude, the belief, the motivation, the language learning strategies, and the other psychological or the socio-cultural factors that affect the language acquisition. Because these are the most important parameters in languages that you people might be doing as of now, like, reading the attitude, studying the attitude, belief, perception, motivation. This is, I think, very, very important aspect in language acquisition. So you can also do this, but yes, for that, you need to create a survey. You need to conduct the questionnaire, conduct the interview. You need to collect the data, and then you need to statistically come out with some conclusions and the output on the same. Socio-linguistics, the survey on the socio-linguistic variables such as regional accents, dialects, language variations, and the language attitude. So this is also an important area in languages you can pursue with. Second, language acquisition. It explores the factors that affect the language learning, such as age, aptitude, motivation, learning strategies, etc. As I said, that if I want to relate, is there any relationship between the kind of learner in learning the foreign language? If I say that I'm a different type of learner, so do you really think so that if my pattern of learning is something different from you, then how would, what effective pedagogy would be for me to learn the foreign language? So isn't it for you as a teacher, isn't it for you as a research scholar important? Because it is not something like general courses, it's a foreign language. So the people might not be having the background, they might not be having clarity, they might not be having much knowledge about the exposure of the language. So you as a teacher, that becomes your responsibility to identify those, to put them all into different stratas and to treat each and every strata differently and separately. on the basis of their age, your gender, the region you live in, and the aptitude, the motivation, and there could be n number of demographic variables which you can take into consideration. So there also you can use the quantitative methods to do so. Applied linguistics gives you an opportunity to go through the many theories and the methodologies in the real world of the language and related issues. That is definitely going to help you to relate your existing work with any kind of theories which is well established in the same line. Psycholinguistics is like cognitive process involved in the language comprehension, speech production, language memory, and the language production using experimental designs and statistical techniques. You can relate the last topic, last one, with the second, experimental studies. Here also what we are doing, we are trying to conduct some sort of experiments to see that who is learning in what style, who is more comfortable in which type of learning. So this is what we can do in languages. Now, moving towards the quantitative assessments and analysis, I can just present you with one theoretical framework of the study. Now, I have completely moved directly to the research methodology section. We have discussed about introduction. We have discussed about the literature review. That is completely theory based, right? Moving on to the research methodology. Immediately before the research methodology, you need, if you are finding out the relationship between some independent and dependent variable, this is what a theoretical framework or a model should look like. Okay, so let's say for an example, there is one study which has been conducted on the teachers, the work-life balance of the teachers and the effect of those quality of work-life on their job commitment. You all must be related to some teaching. We all are in the same fraternity. So some of you are maybe professors, associate professors, research scholars. So if you are a research scholar, if you are into masters, then of course one day you will go in the same line. So if as a teacher, the quality of work life can be defined by so many factors, right? The sense of respect, the teacher's influence, collegial work, skill development, feedback on performance, resource adequacy, goal congruence. So these are the factors which I have got from the literature. So let me just connect the dots. First of all, after going through the literature, I am into a position if I am actually assessing the quality of work life of the teachers, specifically dealing with foreign languages, right? So how do they actually are able to, perform their job commitment? How are they actually able to see that work performance? How do they perform? How committed they are towards their performing the jobs? So I can see that in the literature I've gone through, these are the major factors which are affecting the job commitment, but it has not been studied in the teacher's point of view. Maybe this is something what is unique about your study. So I just jot down this all independent variables or the factors, and then I will try to create the relationship on the effect and the impact on the job commitment. So let's say for an example, I'm talking about sense of respect. Sense of respect is having a significant positive impact on the job commitment of the teachers. If I think that I'm respected here at my workplace, then definitely I would be more committed to my job. If I have any say in the decision making at the department or at the university or the college level, I will definitely be more committed to my job. The collegial work, the assistance that I get from them will definitely positively affecting my commitment towards the job. Skill development opportunities like FDPs, EDPs and all, the feedback on the performance that I do, resource adequacy, if I do have the adequate resources, it will definitely help me to be more committed for my job, and the goal congruence. So it's like these are the factors that needs to be tested on the job commitment. Now you can develop your own model like this. If you need to get into the quantitative analysis, you can have your own variables, right? And all those variables can have the different scales upon which these variables would be measured. So now you can see that every arrow that I've drawn from independent variable to the dependent one has got individual hypothesis to be tested later on, right? Here in this diagram, you can see the left-hand side variables are the independent one, and the right one is the job commitment, that is the dependent variable. So I want to see the impact of independent variable on the dependent variable. Fine. So every independent variable will be tested, and the impact of the independent variable will be tested with the help of individual hypothesis as you can see in this diagram, right? So this is how you can develop a theoretical framework of the study. Now let's discuss about the same model. I have got the questionnaire done for you all. Let me just open it. Yeah. This study, the study of quality of work life of teachers on job commitment. So the quality of work life can be defined by 6-7 independent variables, which has come out from the literature, right? So these are the 6-7 factors which I've taken from the literature, and I want to see their impact on the teacher's job commitment. This is how a questionnaire basically look like. Your name of the college, university, department, and contact number optional, age, work experience, present job, your designation, functional areas, nature of job, etc., etc. So this is the part 1 of your questionnaire, right? I would say that I have seen, because I'm dealing with most of the research scholars, and some I keep on getting some cases for the analysis and all, specifically for the languages and the humanities and social sciences, right? So the major problem that I found with the researchers is that they exactly do not know that how a questionnaire should be prepared, right? So this should be very, very carefully done. While forming or drafting the questionnaire, you should be very much clear about your objectives. Each and every objective should be met by any of your questions which is included in the questionnaire. For example, if I ask you that what is the question number 5, that's the involvement in innovations or changes in timetable or schedule of the department. This should definitely be belonging to any of the objectives or your research questions that you're aiming to, right? So let's discuss about this questionnaire. As we said that we had taken few independent variables. First, we take sense of respect. So there are few questions upon which you have to rate as a respondent. 1 is very low and 6 means very high. 1 is very low and 5 means very high. I think you might be aware of the Likert scale, which is ranging from 1 to 5 and 1 to 7. We usually go for the 5 pointers Likert scale, which usually talks about 1 means strongly disagree, 2 means disagree, 3 is neutral, 4 is agree, and 5 is strongly agree. So most of the analysis, most of the data analysis is being done on 5-pointer Likert scale or the 7-pointer Likert scale when it comes to the data analysis, right? Now you can see that sense of respect. I asked one question: faculty members are recognized for a job which is well done. Do you really agree to this statement? You say that, yeah, it's good. So you'll go for 5 or 6. Fine. Now, the question arises here that how did you get these questions? What I'm highlighting here, how did you get these questions? These scale items can be adopted from the already well-established scales, or this can also be developed by you as a research scholar or as a researcher. Okay, so if I say that I went through the literature where I saw many papers where the sense of respect was assessed by these questions, right? So in order to assess the sense of respect, these 2-3 questions were asked by the respondents, and I am going to adopt the same scale, but you have to mention the source. For example, Bhati NS in 2022, I developed a scale, I validated the same scale, and these scale items are the questions for the same. Let's say teachers' influence in the workplace. So I developed these 7 questions. Okay, I developed the 7 questions, I tested the same, I validated the scale, and then I just got my paper published. Now, Dr. Jayavardhan is working in the same topic, and he wants to have the questionnaire items for the teacher's influence on the workplace. And he just somehow found my paper. Now he can easily quote that the teacher's influence in workplace, that's a variable for which the items have been adopted by Bhati NS 2022, right? So you can give a source. So that's how you can bring the questions from the literature, by providing the strong support and the literature where from it has been adopted. We call this method as adopting the scales. We are adopting the scales for the questions from the previously work done by some authors. Okay. On the contrary, if you think that it is something, you are doing something which is very unique, which is very innovative, for which very less work has been done, and no such scales have been developed as of now. So in that case, what will you do? You will develop your own questionnaire. you can have a series of questions that you think should be the part of this particular study, and you can perform some statistical operations on the same, like exploratory factor analysis. We call it as EFA. I think most of you might have heard of this EFA, exploratory factor analysis, where you get to extract the important factors on the basis of the proximity and the similarity in the responses. So let's say, for example, there are 30 questions that you have formed roughly. You have no idea that which will be loaded into which kind of variable. So after performing the statistical operation, you get to know that 4, 5, 4, 5, 5, and 2 different separate. So the grouping has been done of the questions. Question number 1, 4, 8, and 10 has been grouped into one particular variable. Question number 2, 8, 11, 13, and 18 will be into variable number 2. So that's how you will be able to extract the variable out of the questions that you have formed. This technique in statistics is known as an exploratory factor analysis, where you are going to extract the factors from the questions that you have roughly drawn. Okay, at this stage only, you will be able to remove some questions which are of no use, which are not being grouped into any of these variables that you have formed. Understood? So there are 2 ways of developing the questionnaire. One is adopted scales that you can adopt from the previously done work, and another one is generating your own scale. Okay, and just to validate the same. As I said, if this scale was developed by Dr. N.S. Bhati in 2020, so that means I have developed the scale, I have validated the same, I have checked the reliability of these questions. That means now any one of you can easily take those questions and use it for studying the teacher's influence in workplace. I hope it is clear. So these are the techniques through which you can. So it's very important that your questionnaire has to be very, very carefully drafted and designed. Now you can see that all the dependent and independent variable that I had taken in that diagram has been put here, having some questions into it. Collegiate work, you can see 3 questions. Opportunity to develop and use the skills, many questions. Adequacy of the resources, goal congruence, and the last one is teacher's commitment. That is your dependent variable, right? So teacher's commitment has been studied by 9 questions here, right? And these all 9 questions have adopted from the validated scales by some authors who have already done work in the same line. Understood? This is how you can prepare your questionnaire with. So now this is the end of the questionnaire. I'll just come back to the slide. Now, I'm done with the questionnaire. I've floated it to the audience. Now I got the maybe around 300, 400, 500, 600 data. I got it collected. The next stage is how to deal with the data. Okay. Before that, I think we just now talked about here in this slide, hypothesis. I think it's a very, very general thing that for any kind of exploratory, for any kind of experimental studies, for any kind of primary study, for any kind of quantitative assessment of the data, you should have the hypothesis framed for the problem. Because you do not have the hypothesis framed, you will not be able to test the hypothesis, right? So as you know that there are 2 types of hypothesis, one is null and another one is alternate. Null is something which talks about there is no difference. If I want to see that there are few differences depending on the region that you belong to, if I am into Delhi NCR, if I am into Rajasthan, if I am into outside India, right? So do you think so the attitude of learning foreign languages will differ? Of course, because based on the different demography, you will see that without being racist, I can say that the females can have more inclination towards learning languages as compared to the male, because male tend to become more analytical. So they may prefer to, most of the males, they may prefer to go towards that side, but females would prefer to have into academics most of the time. They may prefer to go for the languages, they may prefer to go for the humanities, psychologies and all. So this is something what I want to test. So the null hypothesis will say that there is no difference. The gender is not having any impact on selecting the subject to be studied, right? Whereas alternate hypothesis is something which will always contradict to the null hypothesis. And it is something what you as a researcher want to know. Okay, yes, there is an impact of gender on selection of the subject by a student or a candidate, you can call it as. So you always need to test the null hypothesis in the present times. You might have read a lot of books, right? So if you go through the analysis using some T, Z, ANOVA test, then you get to see that null hypothesis is being accepted and do not being accepted. But here, while practically doing it, it's only alternate hypothesis what you as a researcher should be interested in. Okay, so whatever your findings are there, you only need to see that whether the alternate hypothesis is accepted or it is not accepted, because null hypothesis will make no sense for you as a researcher, because it never talks about any differences. But if we are doing some study, then we'll surely be talking about some differences out of the literature that we have done. Let us have this presentation of the hypothesis tests that we usually use. I think you must be aware of the testing, the parametric and the non-parametric test. There are two types of hypothesis test. One is parametric, another one is non-parametric. The parametric tests are the one which are being performed on the interval and the ratio scales, right? Scaling technique upon which the question items are being measured. This is what we call it as a scaling. There are 4 types of primary scales: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Let me just take you to that a little bit. Nominal scaling is that when you are providing some symbols and numbers for only differentiation. Let's say, for an example, I'm providing 1 number to males and 2 to female. That doesn't make males be superior to the females. It's just for the identification purpose. Your roll number, your registration number, that is the part of the nominal scaling. Whereas the ordinal scaling is when you are putting something into an order. You are being provided with 5 actors and 5 actresses. Just rate them according to your preferences. He's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. That's how you put them in an order, right? So putting subjects into some order, that is the ordinal scale. The another one is interval and ratio scales. Interval scales and the ratio scales are the one which we do in Likert scale, as I just now showed one example to you. While preparing the questionnaire, most of the questions are being usually like assessed in the on the basis of Likert scale. That is an interval scale, where you need to see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 5 points, and every point have a description. That 1 means strongly disagree, 2 means disagree, 3 is neutral, 4 is agree, and 5 is strongly agree, right? So interval scale says that the difference between 1 and 2 is equal to the difference between 2 and 3. So there has to be an equal difference while we talk about the interval scales. And likewise in SPSS, once you analyze the data, you would see that it would take only 3 kinds of scales. One is nominal, ordinal, and scale. In scale, it considers both like interval and the ratio scales equally. So all your Likert scale type questions will be measured on the scale item only, whereas the nominal is something, your gender, your course that you're running. Like if I'm doing MA, somebody's doing MBA, somebody's doing BTech, MTech. So that's the nominal. Whereas in orders, if I talk about, age can be done in an order, right? Occupation is a nominal scale because we all are from different occupation. So we cannot say that this occupation is better than that one. No occupation is superior to any other one. So it's always better to just put them in a different stage. It's like 1 means doctor, 2 means engineer, 3 means academician, and so on. So whatsoever the data which has been measured on the scale item, let me tell you, we call it as a metric test, metric scales, right? For that, we use the parametric test. That means all the Likert types questions you have taken in your questionnaire, you can just, just understand that way. Parametric test will be used to get the outputs for the same. So in parametric test, we do have some very common tests like Z test, T test, ANOVA. So these are the 3 major tests that we have in parametric one. Whereas in non-parametric test, we do have certain test, which is chi-square, which is most widely used tool for the non-parametric one. And that is used when your data has been measured on the nominal or ordinal scale. Okay. It's a small description of the t-test, because you might have seen that t-test is used for the 1 sample and maximum 2 sample. Okay, so there are 3 types of t-test. One is first one is 1 sample t-test, when you are comparing maybe, let's say, for example, 100 students, the score of 100 students in an examination taken by a French teacher, right? So the average score is 12, but on an average every year we have seen that the students score 50%, not more than that. So 50% is 20, 50% or 20 is 10. I want to see that whether the score obtained by this 100 student is different from the average score of the previously done test and the average score that we have consumed. So is there any significant difference between 10 and 12 marks? So that's how you test the one sample t-test. Whereas if you have two populations to be compared, one is from X university, another one is from Y university, you want to see, is there any difference between the students' performance in language tests, right? And if there is a significant difference, for that you can use the t-test, which is independent sample t-test. And the third one is the paired sample t-test, where if you want to perform an experiment, let's say for an example, I just went to the classroom, a French teacher took a small test of the students, or a viva you can say, and how much did they score in that test? And after the test, we got to know that they need some extra classes. We just conducted 1 or 2 hour session with all of them. And then again, the same sample was studied, right? So after the session of 1 or 2 hours, how much did they score? What was the average score? So that is important to be studied. So if you want to see the impact of an experiment, you need to see pre-experiment and post. Pre and post impact. For that, you will go for the paired sample t-test. But you need to remember that the same sample, the same individuals needs to be studied twice. Because if you take post experiment some other like respondents, then this will not be able to extract the exact impact of that experiment. And what was the experiment here? The lecture taken by the French teacher. That was an experiment, because I want to conduct an experiment with the student. If they are being given in extra classes, extra lecture, will their score improve or not? So if after the test, after the session, I got to see the average score came from 14 to 17, that means this experiment was successful. So the pre-post test, we call it as a paired t-test. But t-test has a limitation that it can only be used for the 1 or 2 sample maximum. If there are 3 samples, if there are 3 universities, if there are like 3 groups to be compared, maybe one group is from engineering, one is from the arts, and another one is from management. If these students from the 3 different schools need to be compared on their the scores on the foreign language examination, then t-test cannot be used. In that case, you will be using the analysis of variance. We call it as a ANOVA test, okay, where you can have the comparison between the average scores of 2 or more groups together, right? So there's one example. Does the height differ significantly according to the origin, right? X1, X2, X3. You can see that there are 3 samples here. If there were only 2 samples, we could have gone with the t-test, but there are 3 or more samples, we have to go for the analysis of variance. So where we need to see that what is the average or the significant difference between the height of X1 group with the X2, X1 with X3, X2 with X3, and X2 with X1. So between group and within group variations, we find out once we go for the ANOVA test, right? And the next one is the non-parametric test, which is the most widely used, that is chi-square test of independence. This usually talks about when, firstly, as I told you, since chi-square is a non-parametric test, you have to have the data to be measured on nominal or ordinal scale. If your data has been measured on the Likert scale, you cannot run the chi-square test on that data. So that's a prerequisite, right? It's a mandate, okay? So you need to be very, very careful while choosing the appropriate test, whether it is meeting the assumption of the test to be applied or not. If it is not meeting, you cannot apply the test. So in chi-square test, what we do, we are actually talking about the differences between the variables. Here you can see that null hypothesis says that there is no difference, whereas alternate says that yes, there is a difference. So I want to test a null hypothesis, that is H0. Foreign language courses and the regions are independent of each other. If I say that the different foreign language, German, Spanish, French, okay, these are the foreign language courses. Is it actually significantly differing across the different regions? Where do you stay? Yes, it may differ. Let me just test it through the hypothesis testing. So I want to just test it if you are residing into the different regions. So will this affect your selection of the foreign language accordingly, or it will not affect that? So in order to test, you can see that foreign language courses that is French, Spanish, German, and English and other languages. It can be any foreign language. So this is nominal data. The region, northern, southern, eastern, right? That is also nominal data. So both the data have been measured on the nominal scale. That means we can go for the chi-square test here. Whereas the null hypothesis will say that there is no relationship between them, but alternate would say that yes, the foreign language courses and regions are not independent. It is somehow, dependent on each other. That's what you will do in chi-square test. I'll just go through one very important tool for statistics, which usually in all of the study we go for, that is regression analysis. I'll just take you back to that slide, which we covered here in this. Yeah. In this, I have shown that various arrows, heading towards the job commitment, and each and every arrow coming from independent variable to dependent one is having an hypothesis to be tested here, right? So regression is a tool, a statistical tool, which is being used when you want to show the impact of independent variable on the dependent variable. And this is how you can test those hypotheses which you have developed, whether sense of respect is having any impact on job commitment, whether teacher's influence is having an impact on job commitment, and likewise for the other factors as well. So let's go to this output only. I perform the regression analysis over here, and you have to be very careful for this value, adjusted R square. This R square value talks about that how much variation in your dependent variable have been observed because of the independent variables, right? I can see this value is 0.480. That means it is 48% variation in job commitment is being observed because of those independent variable, right? On an average, if it is more than 30, it is acceptable. Maximum up to 40 if R square value is there. That means your independent variables are significant enough to have an impact on the dependent variable. In the next table, you can see that various hypotheses have been listed here. Along with this relationship, the path is sense of respect to the job commitment, and the standardized beta coefficient value is there. Now, let me tell you, if you are so scared of numbers, you don't have to, go much into detail of the same. I'll just I'll just explain it to you very simply. Sense of respect and job commitment, the beta coefficient is the regression weights. The number 0.274 shows that if the sense of respect increases by 1 unit, the job commitment will be increased by 0.274 unit. Understood? That means sense of respect is having some impact on job commitment. If I'm being respected at my workplace, my job commitment score will increase up to 0.274. Understood? Then this is the T value, which we just now discussed. Now you have to be very, very careful for this one, significance, that is P value. Level of significance, I think you must be aware of. So we usually take the level of significance that is 5%, that is 0.05. So in this, you can see that significance is having less than 0.05. If your significance value is having the value which is less than 0.05, your hypothesis is supported. If it is more than 0.05, it is not supported. It is supported means sense of respect is having a significant impact or the change in job commitment. Because I can see the value is less than 0.05. Likewise, you can go for next one. That is next is 0.01. It is significantly affecting the job commitment. Teachers' influence is significantly affecting the job commitment by 1% level of significance. It is even more strongly related with that, right? So 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, but more than 5% we do not accept. If the value is greater than 0.05, the hypothesis will not be supported. You can see in this table, the last hypothesis, that is H7, is not supported because the significance value is more than 0.05. So I'll write it not supported. That means the goal congruence to attain the goal is not somehow directly affecting the job commitment. It is affecting, but it is not having a significant impact. Significant is something which is measurable, which can be observed, which can be seen, right? So goal congruence is not having a significant impact, whereas the other factors are having the significant impact. That's how you test your hypothesis empirically or quantitatively. I'll just take you through some like articles in your foreign languages, which I was going through yesterday. And just came to it. It is a very good journal in the which is studies in second language learning and teaching. You can see it is quartile 1 journal, the top 1% journal in your languages. In foreign languages, this I've seen. So in this particular study, let's get positive how foreign language teaching enjoyment can create a positive feedback loop, right? So this study was done. I'm just taking you through the analysis part, so that you can, get rid of that fear that you still have in your mind, because people are doing it wonderfully in languages also, but why are we scared of it, right? So see the method. This is what we will be focusing on. The method is research methods. How many samples did you selected? Instruments. Instruments are the factors. If you remember, I just now talked about many independent factors which had some impact on the dependent one. So they have also taken some factors like mindfulness. They have taken the foreign language teaching enjoyment, teacher engagement, teacher burnout. These are the various factors, independent factors, what they have taken into consideration. Now you can see this is model. Doesn't it look like the model which just now I shared with you? It is a quite little bit complex, but yes, it is also showing that directional relationship between the independent variable and the dependent one. So here I want to see that mindfulness is affecting the teacher's engagement or not. Does mindfulness have any significant impact on the teacher's burnout? Teacher's engagement is having any relationship with the teacher's burnout or what? So that is somehow I'm going to test in this particular relationship, right? But one factor I've added here, foreign language teaching enjoyment. Foreign language teaching enjoyment, which is playing a mediator's role into this all triangle, as you can see. I want to see that if I'm talking about the teaching enjoyment of the foreign language, is it affecting all these 3 dimensions here? So this is the theoretical model, which just now I showed you earlier also. Now I'm going to test it. This is descriptive statistics I've used. What is the correlation between the variable, right? So correlation should not be more than 0.7. I'm telling you, because it will have some issues with the multicollinearity. If your 2 or more variables are too much similar to each other, how would you make it different, right? So the correlation should not exceed generally 0.7. You can see that all values of the correlations are less than 0.7 here. Okay, that means your factors and your data is good enough to go ahead with the analysis. Now again, I'll take you to the same. You can see the mediation model results. Mindfulness, arrow, burnout. Come to the same standard error, estimate. I told you this thing, estimate is the scores, that beta coefficient, which we just now discussed. Now you only have to see this p-value. If you can see that I'm highlighting on this p-value is less than 0.001, less than 0.001. If for all the relationship, for all the hypotheses, the value is less than 0.001. That means mindfulness is having a significant impact on the burnout. Likewise, the other factors. All hypotheses are accepted here. You can see these values 0.45, 0.49, 0.88. These are the regression weights. These are the regression weights that will be tested at 5% or 1% level of significance. These are the same value that we discussed in the previous example that I gave you in the regression outputs, right? And then you will code the findings and all that. I must tell you that because of the scarcity of the quantitative work in your foreign languages, I could see that the top quality journal, top 1%, quartile 1 journal in the foreign languages are entertaining such papers where even if you use a little bit statistics, the paper will get through. But yes, since the people are not working for the quantitative work in the foreign languages, the reviewers, the journals, they also find it very difficult to get some good papers. So if you are involving some quantitative analysis into your the work, then of course it will give a more weightage to your work, and the chances of being it published will become fairly high. Okay, so you can see that I hardly see any statistical challenge, any challenging sort of analysis here in this paper, but that has been listed in quartile 1, which is the top journal in languages. I'll just ask I'll request Dr. Jayavardhan Singh to share the details of the journal, which I have found out in your languages, which you can target upon, and then definitely you'll get the most of it. Now, I'm done with the analysis because this is something which is, it's a never ending topic. There are many things, there are many statistical tools and analysis, like structural equation modeling is one of the most important these days. You would see, if you go through these journals, you will see that most of the work nowadays has been done on the structural equation modeling, SEM. I think you might have heard of this term. So which talks about the multi-directional relationship between the variables simultaneously at the same time. Okay. Now I'm done with my paper writing here. It's a next challenge for me, that where I should put my paper, right? Where to submit the paper, how to select the appropriate and the good journal for the same. So while selecting this journal, you should be very, very careful for few points. You first have to make a list of the journals that are available. You have to determine the impact factor of those journal ranking also. Make sure the journal scope and the policies match your needs. Yes, the journal, the articles, and of course the keywords and the area which the journal basically cater. So that of course should be meeting your requirements and your objectives and your title. Check the journal requirements and the distribution, journal styles and the policies. You have to write the entire paper in the formatting required by the journal itself. Collect the information about the journal's peer review process, that how the review process is being done. How much time does it take to review the paper? How much time does it take to get the paper published? And every process you should be very much aware of before submitting the paper to the journal. And most importantly, the instructions to the authors. Every journal will have a page where the instructions for the authors to submit the same will be given. So you need to strictly follow all those instructions in order to avoid any further delays in the same. Reputation of the journal is one of the most important thing that you need to be very, very careful of. The years of publication. If one journal recently have been added in the Scopus listing, you should not be trusting much on that because it may get delisted next year. So the one which is there for more than 5 years minimum, I would not suggest you to go for any of the journal which is not there on the Scopus for less than 5 years. Okay. There are few cost and availability, the journal APC, that article processing charges are there. You need to be very, very much aware of those charges. Is it providing you the open access or the limited access? That also is important. If the journal is providing you the open access to all the readers, they will definitely be charging you APC, article processing charges. So you need to see if it is fitting well to your pocket, you go ahead. Otherwise, you can choose for the limited access. Peer review status, what is that? Impact factor is very important. Impact factor is somehow related to the ranking of the journal. That how much ranking, like as I just now told you, that top 10%, top 20%, top 30%. So this is something which is based on the impact factor or the site score of that particular journal. That the site score and the impact factor is being calculated on the basis of that in last 1 year or in last 2-3 years, how many references in the indexed journal have been made by that particular journal. For example, if I've submitted a paper in journal X, Dr. Jayavardhan is doing a study and he has mentioned 10 to 15 references of that journal. That means this journal is quality. So if people are citing the work of that journal and the articles of the journal, that means the journal is repute. Okay, so that will automatically increase the ranking of that journal, which is being cited most in last 1 year by most of the authors who have got their paper published in reputed journals. Okay. Reputation is again very, very important of the journal. Who is the publisher? Who is the editor of the same? Acceptance and rejection rate is very, very essential. Usually the good and the quality journals have the acceptance rate of 7 to 10%. 7 to 10% of the articles which are being received by them will be finalized for the publication. So the less the percentage of acceptance, the more prestigious the journal is and the more quality the journal is. Quality accepted of the articles and the authors also. You need to check the authors' profiles also, that I'll be showing you immediately after that. Audience size, the indexing of whether it is indexed in Scopus, Web of Science, SCI, whatever it is. Criteria to consider the review process, the time to publish. I would first request you all to please see that particular journal that you have selected. Just go into the journal, download some papers and see when the paper was submitted, when it was reviewed, when it was finalized, and when it was published. the time taken between this process should be according to your comfort zone. Because there are many journals which will put you on hold for years, 1 year, 1.5 years, and then they tell them that your paper is not meeting the requirements of the journal. So after 1 year, you have done your work, but you get to know that paper is not accepted. Now your paper has become obsolete, because in that next 1 year, most of the research work somehow related to your work might have been done already and might have been published. So you have to be very careful. I would suggest 3 to 6 months is the maximum time. If a journal is taking to publish till the last process, go ahead with that journal. Okay, the more the speedily the review process is being done, you will definitely become more clearer in the process. Publication cost and the author's fees, as I said, that you need to decide whether you want like APs, the open access, or you do not want the open access. Okay. This is the homepage of the Scopus database. I think there is a lot of pressure created by the universities in the modern times, in the present times, to all the faculty members. Go and get your paper published in Scopus Index journals. Okay, but are we actually aware of what is Scopus Index and how to search the journals, how to search the author profile, and how to do that? Most of the people do not having even a single publication in the Scopus database. So that somehow creates your credibility. Let me tell you, if you have good number of publications on the Scopus, that creates your credibility, that creates your chances to be employed somewhere in good reputed institutes, because nowadays academicians are not only the academicians, they are researchers as well. Okay, so that's how you need to be very, very careful for such things. So this is the home page of the Scopus Index. Let me just take you through that. I'll just a minute, please. Yes, I'm just opening the window in my laptop just to show you that how this is being done. So I just went to search engine scopus.com. This would be the home page that will open before you. You can see that, just a minute. Yeah, you can see that there are at the top, one sign-in option is there. You can create your account here by clicking on the create account. So that will keep all your details here. Create your account over on the scopus.com if you have not done it so far. Just go and get signed in. There are two things you can see here. Author search. Author search is helping you to locate the papers of any authors. Let's say, for an example, I'm just putting my name over here. Bhati, Narender Singh, and the affiliation, which is Manipal University, Jaipur, and I'm just searching. So if you want to see anybody's like publication on the Scopus profiling, you can simply click the name over there. And this is the details here. All my publication on the Scopus Index journals are there before you. You can easily trace it. You can also talk about that what is the H index, citation, and all that. So all this list will come before you. There are 9 documents and all details are there. Right. So that's how you can search the author's profile. And you can also create your author's profile, because you first need to create your account on Scopus if you have not done so far. Now, next I'm going to source, which is next right to it. I'm clicking on the source. This is the most important for you to understand now. I am not able to locate the journal. I'm not able to find out the suitable journal for my study, right? So what I'll do here, I'll just go to source. There would be 2 windows here. Subject area, title, publisher, ISN number. I'll go by the subject area. Let me just click on the languages. In different area, you will see languages and linguistics. I'm clicking on it and I'm going for apply. Good. 1135 journals are there on Scopus Index, which are somehow related to linguistics and languages. Right. I'm coming to French, foreign language, modern language journal, this one, language teaching, language learning, language teaching research, bilingual education, second language acquisition. I'm just clicking on this, for example, you can find out the journal. Now, I told you that how to select the appropriate journal. See, the coverage of this journal is 1978 to present. This is an amazing journal. It is having the background of 1978 to present time. The publisher you can see here is Cambridge University Press, and ISN number is this. And you want to go to the home page of the journal. You click on this source home page. Click. It will take you to the home page of the journal here. And yes, here we are. Submit your article. If you need to submit, announcement, subscribe, recommendation, you need to log in, you can do that. Publication opportunities, Cambridge University Press, that will directly take you to that particular journal. Okay. So here you can find out the different volumes and different issues. I can see that recently published articles are here. I'm randomly clicking on this one, open link. Okay. And I'm there on it. So this article was published on 2nd May 2023. You can see the abstract here. You can see the DOI number. If you do not have the access for the full paper, I think we do have the access for the full paper here. And yeah, you can go through it, right? In case you do not have access to any of the papers, you can directly go to that DOI number, date of issue, click that link and go to Sci-Hub, SCI Hub. Most of the research articles will get opened over there if you use that platform. Go to Google, SCI Hub, and paste that DOI link over there, and most of the papers will get opened. Otherwise, you'll have to pay an amount if you need to access the paper. So that's how, because it is not open access. Since I can completely see this entire article, that's an open access. This is an open access article. You can see I'm highlighting over here for your reference, right? If it is having a limited access and you need to pay for the same, then it will ask you for some money, some dollars and all, right? Now, I'm coming back to the Scopus profile. You can see that this is the area. You see that site score here, site score. 7.1 is a site score. Ranking in arts and humanities, it is on 13th position out of 968. That means the 98 profile. This is quartile 1, Q1 journal. I will suggest you all to kindly target the top quality journals, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 initially, once you start writing. But before that, you need to see the pattern of the journal. You need to see that how, in what sequence, in what line the journal is accepting the papers. So start writing in the same pattern in which the journal is accepting, because they would not actually entertain the diversity in the writing style or the pattern. So you better follow, you better target the journal first of all, and then download some of the good paper which is related to your work of that journal only, and then start writing in the same line, in the same space, right? And then you will definitely have the fair chances of your paper to be published there. So here you can see the ranking of the journal, the percentile. I can easily show you over there. The Scopus coverage is there. You can see in 2023, 18 documents, this much. So in this year also, 18 documents have been received by this journal. Site score and rank trend. If I click on this, you come to this. This is ranked at 13th, as it was there already. Studies in second language acquisition, which is having 98 percentile, 7.1 site score. The top site score is of artificial intelligence review in this particular language and linguistic category. This is 99 percentile. This is top #1 journal in language and linguistics. Understood? And how do you provide the ranking? On the basis of the site score, which I already discussed with you. Site score is being generated by how many times a reader, somebody is quoting or citing the paper of your particular journal. The more the citations are, the more would be the site score, and that's how the ranking would be affected. Okay. Fine. So this is how you can go for the Scopus profiling, right? Now I'm just taking you through quartile score. Just now I discussed there are 4 quartiles. Quartile 1, that is which is having the rank between 75 to 100%. Quartile 2, which is having 50%, 51 to 75%. And quartile 2 is quartile 3 is 25% to 50%, and quartile 4 is 0 to 25%, right? This is on the basis of the site score only. I think just now the journal that we discussed, that was having 98 percentile, which is ranging from 75 to 100, which is very close to 100. So that is a top category journal. So you definitely can categorize on the basis of the quartiles of the same, right? Yeah, the preparation of the paper preparation guidelines, how you, what are the things you should be very careful of. The clear idea of the knowledge has to be there. Proper literature reviews to be done. Discussion with the guide and the peers. Follow a standard pattern of writing of that specific journal to be very specifically. Avoid the grammatical errors and the punctuation errors. Take care of the plagiarism issues very specifically. Select the proper standard peer-reviewed journal that I've already discussed with you. Read the author's instructions and follow the template. discussed with you. Submit the paper with the complete information. Suggest the suitable subject experts as reviewer if asked by the journal. This is what you have to do. Now, there are a few guidelines which is very, very important now to be taken care of. The plagiarism acceptance by the UGC. Similarity up to 10%, minor similarities, no penalty. 10 to 40%, such a student shall be asked to submit a revised script within a stipulated period of time. Level 2, that is ranging from 40% to 60%, that is a revised script for a period of 1 year. You would be debarred by submitting the research article into that particular journal for next 1 year. If similarity is exceeding 60%, such a student registration for the program shall be cancelled, and it's a legal offense. As a researcher, as a faculty, if you do it, then of course it's a punishable offense. You can just go through it. You'll be asked to withdraw the manuscript if it is more than 60%. You will be denied to a right to 2 successive annual increments by the organization. You can also be terminated by the organization if you get involved into such illegal offenses. You shall not be allowed to supervise any of the newly PhD, MPhil students, scholars as a period of 3 years minimum, right? So this is it from my side. I'm handing it over to the organizer, Dr. Jayavardhan, and all your queries if you have.
Thank you so much, sir. It was such a powerful presentation from your side, and I'm sure that all our participants are floored by your presentation. Of course, it was very dense, it was heavy, and I could feel, and we all could feel, that there were a lot many presentations that were happening, within the framework of that main presentation, whether we talk about browsing through the website of Scopus, or even looking at the whole structure that goes into writing a research article, a paper, a dissertation, or even for that matter, a PhD thesis. I would request sir to just stop sharing the screen, if you could do so. Now the session, of course, even before opening the session quickly for question answers, if at all there are any, I would just like to say that you drove us through the whole picture of writing the research paper or article at the very outset, the beginning point, and then, getting it published, which is actually the point of writing something, so that it brings some kind of a change in the society. And of course, you bring some innovativeness to your work as well. So quantitative research has always been something that has been intimidating for all of us in languages. But of course, after this presentation, I'm sure that people would really make an effort to move ahead in terms of quantitative research, especially with terms of the rightly pointed aspects that you showed to us, like social linguistics, psycholinguistics, SLA for that matter, or applied linguistics, educational linguistics, and especially the designing of questionnaires, which is in reference to the dependent variables and independent variables, which otherwise, we hardly pay attention to at times. So I think that was very organized, and indeed, I do see some comments somewhere. People wrote me personally that it was very heavy, but yet they wanted to stay glued onto this presentation because they wanted to see as to what this whole, spread or expanse of this whole quantitative research actually opens up to. I've already shared 2 links of those papers that sir shared with us, and also we have shared the link of the group of WhatsApp in case if you have further more queries, you can still stay connected with us. We've also shared the Gmail ID, so that in case if you want to write to us, very shortly we'll be sharing the link of the feedback, so that you give your feedback, and in case if you have other questions, you can ask us. I see some of the questions. I'll just quickly see some comments that I see. I think we still have that screen on us. So you could just stop sharing it. Yeah. So I see that session was very informative and most relevant, and quantitative analysis is important. Of course, it is. Neelamji, that's true. Then we have Prashasti ma'am saying that amazing session, sir. Thank you. Thank you. And then we have Krishna, she's writing good information. Then there are a lot of positive feedback. There's Neha Garg, she's writing that thank you for such an informative talk. I just have one question, that for publishing an article in Scopus, Q1 or Q2 statistical analysis is important even for works like discourse analysis. So, sir, yeah, sir, if you could just respond to that question.
I would not exactly say that for getting a paper published in Q1 and Q2, the statistical analysis is there. But yes, I clearly mentioned that if you prove your findings with the help of supporting evidence, that is being done on the primary database, right? So you will have the evidence to produce the outputs. You will have an evidence to showcase that, yes, this is your real findings. and that you can definitely present it to the authors and to the like anyone where you have done this primarily. So if I have done something which is very much fresh, which is of primary nature, then definitely it creates more impact on the readers to see, as compared to the one which have been done on the literature based or the any other way of doing it. So that is something where you need an expertise, of course, of the qualitative data also. But when it comes to the quantitative one, that creates a space for the readers and for the reviewers to believe and to make them believe that yes, this is a quantitative data-based analysis where the work has been done primarily. That means it will create a space, for example, a study which has been done in the North India, but that study has never been done in the same population taken altogether. But the similar studies have been conducted in some other countries, in some other sides of India. But owing to some demographic differences, the different level of education, different level of socio-cultural dynamics, right? The different level of attitude. So you would see the majority of the differences in the opinion and their attitude, right? In the behavior as well. So in order to find out if some decisions have to be taken, let's say for an example, in the languages, right? So what is the pattern of the learners in the North India and the South India? So you would see the cultural differences over there. So there, I think there is a strong need to collect the data and to just display to the audience so that the decisions in the same regard can be taken. So the decision can only be taken on the basis of when you have collected the data, you have analyzed it empirically, and the suggestions and the implications can be done accordingly. So in that case, of course, I would say the chances of your paper to be published in repute journal will be very, very high. So on that note, I would request everyone to kindly go through the top journals in the languages. You would see that because I could see few papers where almost in all papers, the statistical analysis was done. You can go ahead with the literature also, but there are a few techniques like SLR, structural literature review method. So in that you need an expertise, but again, you would not be able to give a clear picture of your findings of your specific population in that case. So that is what I'll say. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for that elaborative answer. There are very positive comments coming up from Dr. Nidhi Sharma, very informative session. Shalna Padmanabhan is saying the same. Rahul says the same. Unfortunately, Ms. Julian, we won't be able to share the PPT with you. Then everyone is appreciating the session. People want to get in touch with you, Dr. Bhati. So we have shared this link of the WhatsApp group, and also we have shared the email ID. So in case you want to have further details about certain works that you are in the process of doing, or something that you want to take up later in the future, you can always get in touch with us through those two platforms. I think the time was quite less, and there was a lot of information that had to be shared. So we know it was quite power packed, but then the little idea was to give you the whole stretch, or as I was mentioning, how things actually unfold in terms of quantitative research. So we with the help of Dr. Bhati, we drove through everything. So Ms. Bansari Thakkar, you can get in touch with Dr. Bhati through the links that we have shared with you. Thank you, everyone. I think that way we can wrap it up. We have just one quick question coming from Ms. Neha Garg. She says, "Thank you, sir. I hope we will get one more session that how can we do this analysis? How can we use SPSS?" Absolutely. You can write to us. Any of your queries, we'll forward them. We'll direct them to Dr. Bhati. And of course, we'll get some, ideas from him. Sir.
Definitely, it was just an introduction that how the quantitative research can take place in your research studies, in specifically in the languages. But there is a long way to go, because analysis is not something which can be done in a day or two. Yes, there are many other things: the methodology, the sampling, the selection of the sample design, the research design, running the SPSS, the test over there, interpretation, writing, discussions, and everything. So that takes a time. But yes, definitely over the period of time, if you keep on attending such FDPs and EDPs, which talks about the quantitative research, then definitely you would become a master of it very soon. So just looking forward to meet all of you very soon with the next session on the same, if you are eagerly waiting for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So I would just request sir to just stop sharing it so that we all can just be there on the screen. And as sir rightly mentioned that, if we start to put, a little bit of quantitative research part in our papers, I'm sure that, they would get published in, as Sir rightly showed and mentioned about quartile 1 journals, which are actually of high repute. So those kind of journals can be targeted with a little bit of quantitative research aspect into them. And of course, then that would help us to actually move ahead with that. Krishna ji is writing, please share your mail ID. So we have done it on the chat box. So you can go back to the previous chat and you would find over there. If there are, I think we are running out of time. Is this possible to share the session saved speech document? For the moment, we are trying to save it somewhere, and if at all we'll upload it on YouTube, some channel, we'll let you know the link of that in the group itself. So please stay connected in that WhatsApp group that is there also in the email that we wrote to you. And as far as the feedback is concerned, we have shared the link of feedback. After we receive your feedback, we would be sending the link of the certificate that would be sent only to those who would be getting, submitting their feedbacks to us, so that we get to know as to who all have actually sent the feedback. So I would request everyone if they can just put their cameras on. So we'll take a quick picture with all of you so that we can actually see each other in the virtual mode as well. And we can, yeah, so I can see the fraternity, French fraternity, and I'm very happy to see all of them. So I'll just take one quick minute if everyone can put the cameras on, and I'll be very happy to just click a picture of everyone, and then that'll be like a petit souvenir. So just a second. I'll just quickly take a picture. It's on the count of 3. Yeah, I see a few more faces.
Kavita.
All right, so just a second. I'll just quickly paste it on my documents, and I'll just let you know if it is rightly done. Just a second. All right, there's one more group because it's a big group, and I'm really thankful that everyone stayed back at these evening hours. Yeah, just a second. I'll paste this as well. Right. The session was in English because our expert is keen to work in languages as well because he did a lot of homework, as we can see, to help us drive through quantitative research in languages.
Just have a glance of taking a picture of the intro.
Yeah. So in case if you have any more queries, please feel free to get in touch with us personally or on the groups that we have shared. And I would like to thank our guest once again, Dr. Bhati, for having spared this valuable time to us. And also to have given us this whole quick glimpse of how this actually starts from the point of incorporating quantitative research in our work and then getting published. So it was like a complete journey. So thank you so much, sir, for your expertise, and we look forward to your kind presence even in future with more interesting sessions. And I cannot thank, I don't have words to thank our participants. Dear participants, thank you so much for your kind presence. And you were in a huge number and you stayed back till the last point of this presentation. So thank you so much for that. And we look forward to your kind presence even for the further sessions. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. And thank you, Dr. Kumar Santalingam. Merci beaucoup. Bonne soirée. Au revoir.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Please tell me.
Sir, when we attend this program, can we get a certificate for this?
Yes, ma'am. So for that, I have shared in the group a link of feedback. You will fill that feedback form, and we will get the data from there, and we will be mailing to those specific people the certificate of the same.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Interesting, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, I had, net problem, everything, somewhat I have got insight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. That was the intention, to actually open ourselves up to quantitative research, which at times is intimidating, and we sort of do not dwell into such, domains. So that was the intention. So if it is helping us in some or the other way, then the purpose is solved. Thank you, everyone. Merci beaucoup. Bonne soirée. À bientôt.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.